They were playing Raid Shadow Legends, and I wanted to bring some Hydra content to you with our new champion, Nia. Now, this is the test server, and I know it's not super crazy, it's brutal, it's not insane damage for brutal. It's obviously a 1 key though, right? Top chest. But I'm going to talk about some factors that made me choose doing this key instead of Nightmare and what my intentions were. So first, if you guys missed it, I did a video on YouTube already showing the 1 key Nightmare full auto Hydra with pretty much this team. The only difference being Snickers, as we affectionately call him, instead of Nia. So there's a very similar comp. You could actually, if you don't have Solus but you have Bivald, you could use Bivald in there instead, along with Nia, or along with Mother Sybil, just a different decreased speed champ. But there's so many options for this team that are really solid. You could also use Nia in the lead instead of Mighty Uko and put her in a taunting set, and use a different reviver instead of Uko because Nia does bring the increased speed as well. But there's so many options you can kind of use. But overall in this role, I kind of wanted to fit her in as a decreased speed champion. Bring in the extra increased speed sure doesn't hurt. And then the AoEs are going to just help bring out a little more damage with the War Master procs and overall utility with her for sake of protection with her buffs that she puts, like Ally Protect and Strengthen. So let's actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the run, and I'm gonna show you guys, or talk a little bit about the mechanics and how they're all working together here and everyone's role, and then we're gonna go to the builds. So before I get to that, I am gonna, let's just say the reasons that I chose Brutal. We're on the test server, the rotation's different. And there's a lot of factors working against me that made me not be able to do this as a 1 key Nightmare full auto. But this was full auto on Brutal, guys. No hands. Look, Mom, no hands. Full auto. It was no targeting, no semi-auto, just completely full auto. But on the test server right now, unfortunately, it's not the rotation that has the Head of Torment in the start. So trying to use Shamel as a booster to make that leader go more often, unfortunately, doesn't really work here. Unfortunately. Also, Nia is the new Sylvan Watcher, right? I don't exactly have a lot of options for accessories for her, so I had a really hard time building her out. Also, Sylvan Watchers, Faction Guardians. We don't have dupes yet to put in the Faction Guardians because, well, this is the test server. I have one of everybody. So I don't have all the extra stats from Faction Guardians either. Yet another thing that makes it a little bit more difficult to build. So just considering the fact of, and the Head of Wrath. The Head of Wrath actually is Spirit Affinity in this rotation, which I think is 3. It's 2 or 3. And along with that, who's the first person to die? Go figure. Mighty Uko, our reviver, who's Force. So it's not ideal to use Uko as your reviver if the Head of Wrath is Force. Let me just put that out there right now, because he smashes, and if the timing on full auto is bad with Nia's buffs to protect the team, then Uko is just toast once things get rolling. So just keep that in mind for, depending on the rotation, you want to think smart with your revivers, your healers. Make sure they're not the ones in a compromised position. That could be the first ones to die, especially. Or you really got to pump up some stats in order to make that not be the case, right? Like in a perfect world, I could have put Nia in the lead spot, so she's boosted by Shamel with her AoE A1 in a taunting set. And then I could have put Uko, so Mighty Uko, I could have put him in a much beefier, higher HP, higher defense set of gear so he could revive. Stay alive against the Head of Wrath, who's the wrong affinity. But yeah, there's a lot to consider when it comes to making a Hydra team, so I just kind of wanted to talk that out so you guys understand my decisions here. And then again, like Soulless, it doesn't need to be Soulless. You could use Vivald. You could use other provokers. It doesn't have to be him, but you want provokers with an AoE provoke because, and that can keep it up pretty well, or ideally 2 skills like him and Vivald, because at least if you're going to go full auto. If you're going to go manual, doesn't matter. But we're talking full auto, easy Hydra with our new friend Nia. So let me show the run. I'll quick talk about a few of the mechanics and how everyone's working together. Then I'll cut the run. We don't need to watch the whole thing. And then we're going to show you the rest of the builds and talk about why Nia is so great for Hydra. And yeah, I'll showcase everyone though for the sake of this team. Alright, so we're going in the team here, full auto, no AI setting. Well, okay, the AI settings are there. What am I saying? No selecting a specific cat or anything, so that way this is literally a no hands setup. So I do have Geoforce in the A3, that way he places HP burn as much as possible, and he's actually been doing a pretty good job about spreading around that use of the A3, not just on the same head constantly. Of course he's dumb and he'll use it on decapitated heads too, but that's another story. So we have Shamel here, who is our anti-torment. Now, there is no torment in this starting rotation, but there is on the real servers that are currently live, so keep that in mind. You're going to get way better damage output and a much cleaner, better start than I get here. Because I don't have Shamel boosting, we kind of miss some of these increased speeds and decreased speeds that I really need to keep up more consistently, and it does affect the run a little bit. So we don't have Mighty Uko putting up the increased speed as often, or reviving, of course, with that as often. But yeah, I think they end up being the first person to die, I think, to be honest, because Head of Wrath here is the strong affinity against Mighty Uko, unfortunately, so not the best lineup for my reviver. So in hindsight, not the best option, but this is the test server, not the live server, so keep in mind that the rotation is currently different. Hopefully they'll change that in the future though, and it'll all be the same, but for now, yeah. So she is there. We have Nia there on the far left side. Now she's gonna get really low health and die quite a bit because she is having everyone with ally protection debuffs. So she's absorbing a lot of damage, and because, unfortunately, I just don't have the gear to give her super tankiness. I mean, I probably could have done something besides Stalwart and got her way more HP, but missing out on the Faction Guardians bonuses and really strong accessories really does hurt this quite a bit, unfortunately. But she still does a lot of work helping. Even though she dies a few times here and there, she's helping everyone else stay alive so much better. Inquisitor Shamel doesn't die nearly as much as he probably should, for example. But she's solid for support. The decreased speed is so helpful, and AoE A1 is always great. And she's just a really good champion for Hydra now. I mean, she kind of fulfills that role a little bit like Uko, like Nekmo, in the sense of having that AoE A1 that makes a great lead boosted by Shamel, or someone to put in taunting gear, but she does not have an aura. That's the only bummer about her, so kind of wish Raid planned better with that and gave her an aura, but that's not the case, so it is what it is. She's still a solid champion either way. Soulless is here to provoke and extend our debuffs, which really comes in handy to keep everything up. Once we get those block buffs debuffs up, we really want to keep them. And now things get better the moment that Torment is out. Now that Head of Torment's come out, Shamel can really shine and help the whole team. So that's kind of, I mean, he has one job, right? Deal with the Head of Torment and do extra damage because of it. You'll also notice at some points that we got some crazy poisons coming at us, and that means Shamel counterattacks for every single poison that comes at us, and that's just a really fun extra damage because of his A1. Then we have Geo. We know Geo's passive. It's so strong for Hydra. And then we do have Ugo in here as well. It's just another force. She's our decreased defense. She also helps keep up block buffs. Not that we need it with Soulless extending, And she is a cleanser as well. So Nia also heals and cleanses, and so does Ugo. So we have two forms of healing and cleansing going on. So it really does help everyone to stay alive well and not be ridden with debuffs. In a perfect world, I would have put Nia with much higher resistance though. But either way, still pretty solid and a lot of fun and a really great team, especially if I get her on my real account and I can really push my faction guardians and get better accessories, we'll be in a much better place. But let's skip to the end. Alright, and we had Solus as the last man standing, 13 minutes in here and over 30 million damage. We have 32.78, still pretty solid all things considered, and so much more potential. Alright, first up I'll show you guys the AI here. We have Mighty Uko prioritizing the block buffs. No AI needed there. I did make sure that Ugo started with the block buffs as well, because it's still not landing always on the Head of Wrath. You know, it's a little bit weird still. I don't think they actually fixed that. Geomancer, we have turning off the A2. Hopefully we don't need that because there's enough block buffs in this team, you would think. And then we also have prioritizing this lovely skill here. And then we have Solus. I did make sure he's prioritizing his A3 because this is what's most important. I think he does naturally though, so I don't think that's an issue. And then Nia here, I do have starting with, leading with the decreased speed to try to get that on some heads, and then prioritizing her protection actually. Although I kind of think it would have been better if I prioritized this skill, to be honest. The healing is really necessary, but I do have 2 healers in this team, so that was really helpful. So I have 2 healers, 2 cleansers, so it wasn't too bad. But you'll notice everyone's a bit squishy. Like I said, she is very squishy for assuming she is a champion with a ally protect debuff, right? So with her, ideally, I would have had, like Snickers, I would have had over 70,000 HP. Honestly, ideally over 3,000 defense at least, probably as well. But that's alright. It worked out enough to get our 1 key here on Brutal, but if you want to go Nightmare, we really got to push these stats higher. You can see all my speeds are tuned to Nightmare, so let's go take a look at the builds. Solus is my Provoker, so that's his main job, of course, here. You can have other Provokers, as I've noted, but... Oop, don't mind me. There we go. Ah, okay. But it depends on who you're pairing and making sure you check all the boxes. Like, if you have Bivald in your team instead of Solus, you don't need someone else with healing and shield, possibly, you know, like, and he also brings a leech. So you might choose a different person for your decreased speed, like Mother Sybil, because she's not bringing some of those other things like that healing and whatnot to be a consistent, like Bivald would. So like, because Solus doesn't bring any extra healing or protection for the team, so I brought in someone else with the decreased speed that also brings protection for the team. So that's just something. Always trying to make sure you're checking off all those boxes for Hydra. And if you don't know what I mean, check out the Hydra basics videos that I have. I have like Hydra is not RNG, kind of talks about all the things that you just need to check the boxes of to make sure your team can cover all the bases. And on Hell Hades' website, there's like a kind of Hydra basics one that I have. So, alright, Solus, Reflex set. Chance to come back to these skills more often. Reflex or Relentless is ideal for this situation, for sure. I was able to, either one kind of seemed to work out okay. All my speeds are set for Nightmare, guys. Keep that in mind. 250 speed. You can go a bit lower if you're just doing Brutal, or even lower, of course, if you're just doing Hard. But I would aim for over 230 speed for Brutal, over 220 speed for Hard. But yeah, 250 for Nightmare. I was aiming for Nightmare with all the stats here, so keep that in mind. My stats are a little bit high. Masteries. There is my Masteries for Solus. And again, yeah, 250. Solid defense, some crit, of course, as well. So, alright, and then we have Mighty Uko. They are our lead champion with giving us some extra speed. They're revivers, so that's really helpful. I have them in a taunting set, so when they're boosted by Shamel, they go more often. Just even more chances to make sure the Head of Decay stays provoked. That's the biggest key to success, honestly, especially in full auto. Does the Head of Decay just stay provoked the whole time? It makes it so much easier when that's the case. And if you're using something like A lot of people use Krisk. He only has a provoke that's not as reliable, right? But they'll put him in a frenzy set or something that makes him go more often. It makes it a little bit easier to keep provoke on. But there's a lot of protection in that team too, so that's another story. But you really, if you want consistency and you want ease of like full auto or semi-auto, being able to keep the Head of Decay provoked with a champion with an AoE A1 in a provoke set, really smart. Oh yeah, alright, what did I have here? Yeah, just again, everything is set more toward Nightmare for my stats. And about the same here, as always, for my lovely, lovely masteries for Hydra. Alright, who's next? So we have Geomancer. He is in Relentless gear. Ideally, I would want some refresh accessories on him too. Reflex also works decently, but I really like Relentless on the AoE A1 champions. It really does allow them to do extra damage with even just War Master procs. And then same thing, he's the same Geo that I use for the Iron Twins, so his accuracy is a little bit higher than needed. I'm going to go to Nia last. We have Shamel. He's our booster, and he's also here for damage, honestly. Shamel, I do have built with a little bit of damage. I have pretty solid attack on him. And then we do have a little bit of crit damage. Not as high as I'd like, but enough to help him pump out enough damage, especially with all those counterattacks from his passive and his A1. So I do have him in Giant Slayer. That's really helpful if you're not resisting all the debuffs thrown at you, especially when the Head of Blight is out and you get a ton of poisons thrown on all your allies. He's going to counterattack like crazy with his A1 and from all the debuffs that are being thrown on your allies. And you're going to get a lot of Giant Slayer procs, so it actually comes in handy. And it's not as great as it used to be before they nerfed the cheese way back when Hydra first started, but it's still really good. And then we have Ugo. I have Ugo and Reflex, also good in Relentless, same thing. And always looking for those refresh accessories here too, when possible. So 261, pretty fast, honestly, especially we're only doing Brutal again. But yeah, same thing. Stats were made for sake of doing Nightmare. Now, when it comes to the resistances, you'll notice I don't really resist much. I was not doing a good enough job of keeping decreased accuracy on some of those heads. But a lot of that had to do with the timing of, like, the Head of Blight pops out and we don't get a decreased accuracy on them before they start throwing their poisons at us. So we weren't able to resist a lot of that because of this situation there. And then, yeah, masteries for Ugo. And then we have our girl Nia. So I really wanted to get her involved. She has a really great kit. So she has a decreased speed on her A1 and AoE. So she's a great candidate, guys, to be boosted as the leader for a comp like with Inquisitor Shamel, if that's what you're doing. But keep in mind, she does not have an aura. So you might have better options for your leader in that case. She does also, because she's a decreased speed, because she's an AoE, she also is a good candidate for provoke set as well, to help keep the Head of Decay provoked. And yeah, I mean, she's a really good champion overall. We got decreased speed here. It is a lower chance to land, but it's better. It's kind of like Mother Sybil, 50% chance to land a decreased speed on her A1. And then we do have an ally protect and strengthen here. So that's really nice. I kept thinking she was increased speed as well. I apologize. I think I said that earlier. She does not have an increased speed in her kit. I apologize. But yeah, we have, let's see, remove all debuffs from a target ally and then heals them by 40% of their max HP. So she's got a cleanse and a heal just like Ugo, actually. So that's quite nice. She can kind of fulfill the role of a couple different characters. So I really like that. They're adding some diverse kits that are great for Hydra, but maybe allow you to insert some different people to pair with them, because she's in decreased speed, she's protection against the Head of Wrath, and she's a cleanser and healer. So that alone just makes her be able to check some different boxes that might be able to allow you to bring in some champions that didn't quite synergize with your team before. She does have a passive that allows her to heal, and she heals when she is healed, heals each ally except this champion by 20% of that heal. So she adds extra healing to your team there. I did put her in a cruelty blessing, even though I didn't really need to, because in this team, I happen to have Geomancer also in a cruelty blessing, but I didn't worry about adding extra attack on Geo. He's not really built for damage, so I just left the cruelty and kind of let it be what it is. But yes, I have her in Stalwart gear also, guys. Stalwart gear is really helpful. The new Defiant gear, I think it's called. That will be really, really great for her as well. Anyone with ally protection type skills, instead of Stalwart, a little bit beefier stats you can get out of that. That'll be with the new Forge Pass. But yeah, I did have her built with Nightmare in mind. It was just really hard to get her the stats I wanted because look at my crappy accessories, a bunch of 5-star stuff, and we have no faction guardians. But I think either way, she is has an amazing top tier kit for Hydra. She can be our new Hydra Queen, at least one of the princesses alongside our Hydra Queen Ugo, right? Let's be honest. Okay, she's Hydra Queen, she's Hydra Princess, but still, a new Hydra Queen is in town. I think she's great, and I look forward to pulling her on my real account. Hopefully.